In December 1804, in the House of God of Notre Dame in Paris, Napoleon Bonaparte delegated himself head of the French. Europe had never seen such an unexpected and sensational ascent to drive, a child of ruined Corsican honorability to military despot of France, in minimal over 10 years. Transformation and war had made Napoleon's way to the high position. War would rule his 10-year rule, a contention phenomenal ever that would leave millions dead and a mainland in disturbance. 8 months after Napoleon's crowning ritual, the French realm and its Spanish partner were at battle with England, and Napoleon had gathered a multitude of 180,000 men along the Channel coast. Yet, as long as the English regal naval force managed the oceans, intrusion was unthinkable. However, nor might England at some point challenge France ashore. Thus, English statehead William Pitt attempted to fabricate an European alliance against Napoleon, utilizing tact and gold. England would demonstrate Napoleon's most immovable foe, and its press taken pleasure in steady joke of the French ruler. England and France were old adversaries in Europe and abroad. However, presently Pitt dreaded Napoleon's triumphs had made France excessively strong. The French sovereign must be crushed, and Europe's overall influence re-established, assuming there was ever to be enduring harmony. Pitt tracked down willing partners in Europe, among rulers who scorned Napoleon as a result of the French unrest, and a risky danger to the current request. Austria held on to the most profound complaints, having seen her impact in Germany and Italy consistently dissolved by French triumphs. The straw that broke the camel's back came in May 1804, when Napoleon had likewise delegated himself ruler of Italy in Milan. Austria, Russia, Sweden, and Naples joined England in a collusion known as the Third Alliance. What's more, contrived an aggressive arrangement for a progression of joint offensives against France. The principal assault would be made by a consolidated Austro-Russian armed force, progressing across the Rhine into France. In any case, Napoleon got expression of their arrangements and responded with commonplace speed and choice, still up in the air to strike first, before the partners could combine efforts, and requested his military, presently renamed La Grande Army, to walk to the waterway Rhine. His objective was the Austrian multitude of General Mack, which had made an untimely development against Bavaria, a French partner, and was presently perilously segregated from the other unified armed forces. Napoleon requested Marshal Murat, his broadly showy Rangers leader, to make bluff assaults through the dark woodland, while the remainder of his military, progressing at speed, encompassed Mack's military from the north. That late spring, Napoleon's Grande Army was at its generally imposing, thoroughly prepared, profoundly energetic, its regiments ready for action. Likewise, it had been recently revamped by the Corps framework, later imitated by basically every military on the planet. Every corps, directed by a marshal, was a small multitude of 15 to 30,000 troopers, with its own infantry, cavalry, mounted guns, and supporting arms, like surveillance, designers, and transport. This implied every corps could walk and battle, temporarily, autonomously, permitting Napoleon to break with the old regulation of keeping his military focused and advance with his corps broadly scattered. This assisted with masking his genuine goal and sped up in light of the fact that the military could progress along various streets and live off the land, taking its provisions from dispersed towns, as opposed to depending on sluggish stockpile carts. At the point when the adversary's fundamental power was found, the military could rapidly think for the fight to come. This is the manner by which Napoleon's military had the option to move at a speed that frequently shocked and disorientated his foes. Mack didn't understand the risk he was in until it was past the point of no return. Napoleon's quick corps crossed the Danube behind him and encompassed his military. Mack sent off a progression of ineffectively coordinated counterattacks. However, notwithstanding a few frantic battling, the Austrians couldn't break out of the snare. Mack trusted that Kutuzov's Russian armed force could show up so as to save him. Yet the Russians were as yet 160 miles away. Thus at Ulm, on 19th October, only a month and a half into the conflict, Mack gave his military over to Napoleon. The French took almost 60,000 Austrian detainees, and Napoleon had struck his most memorable destroying blow against the alliance. Russian General Mikhail Kutuzov was an accomplished and watchful authority, more careful than Mack. His military was depleted after its 900-mile walk from Russia. Be that as it may, becoming aware of the Austrian acquiescence at Ulm, and realizing he wasn't sufficiently able to confront Napoleon alone, he promptly requested a retreat. Napoleon sought after. The Russians battled a few sharp rearguard activities, yet couldn't save the Austrian capital Vienna, which the French involved on 12th November. Kutuzov got away to Olmütz, in the present Czech Republic, where he was joined by fortifications, as well as ruler Alexander of Russia and sovereign Francis of Austria, face to face. The fact that Kutuzov had gotten away from drives Napoleon mad. At this point, his military was additionally depleted and nowhere near home. With winter drawing closer, he expected to compel an unequivocal fight rapidly. Luckily for him, the arrogant 27-year-old Russian ruler looked for the greatness of fight, superseding the worries of his veteran administrator, General Kutuzov. With the unified armed force shutting in, Napoleon requested his corps to quickly focus on a combat zone he'd painstakingly chosen, close to the town of Austerlitz. Napoleon managed the manners of his military some time later, then snatched a couple of hours' rest close to an open-air fire. Sunrise would stamp the primary commemoration of his royal celebration as ruler, and guaranteed a fight that would represent the deciding moment his young realm. The morning of 2nd December 1805 was cold and brilliant, with a weighty fog. Two multitudes of close to rise to estimate confronted each other across a 7-mile wide front line. In any case, the partners held the key position of the Pratzen levels, while French III Corps, under Marshal Davout, was all the while walking to the combat zone. Seeing Napoleon's meagerly extended right flank, the partners arranged an enormous scope assault from the Pratzen levels to steamroller the French right, prior to swinging round to wrap Napoleon's military. Much to their dismay, Napoleon was relying on his frail conservative, drawing the partners into simply such a move, whereupon he would send off his own assault on the Pratzen levels to slice the united armed force down the middle. His intense arrangement depended on his right forecast of united developments, the rapid appearance of Davout's III Corps to his right side, and a flawlessly coordinated counterattack. The fight started around 7 a.m. as Austrian soldiers of General Kienmeyer's development gatekeeper conflicted with French soldiers safeguarding the town of Telnitz. Notwithstanding overpowering chances, the French battled determinedly and boldly, yet steadily. They were constrained back. Yet, the partners, rather than doing their extraordinary wrapping assault, sat idle. The morning fog and the late appearance of orders had prompted disarray and deferral, and it was one more hour before the initial 3 partnered segments were moving. Before long, savage battling emitted around Sokolnitz town and palace. Marshal Davout's corps, which had simply force-walked 70 miles in 2 days, presently showed up to reinforce the French traditional. Around 9 a.m., his lead infantry detachment showed up abruptly through the fog and retook Telnitz, prior to being driven back thus by Austrian hussars. To a greater amount of devout units supported French soldiers at Austerlitz. As the fog cleared, Napoleon saw that as he trusted, the unified left was moving off the Pratzen levels, and he requested Marshal Soult's 4 Corps to start its assault. To the alert of united commandants, 2 French infantry divisions, as of recently concealed by the fog, were abruptly seen propelling straight towards the unified focus. General Kutuzov had to hastily coordinate a guard of the levels utilizing troops of 4 sections. 2 hours of ridiculous battling followed. Flintlock fire was so quick and enraged that the 2 sides were before long coming up short on ammo and went to the pike. By 11 a.m., the French, with the benefit in preparing and discipline, had gotten the levels and driven a profound wedge into the partnered position. Toward the north, a Goliath Rangers fight created, while a Russian power from General Bagration's development watchman caught the town of Bozenitz before it was ended by cannon fire from the Santon slope. A definitive charge by 6 regiments of French weighty cavalry at last drove back the partners, permitting Marshal Lannes' V Corps to push ahead and hold on to Blasewitz and Krug. Presently excellent Duke Constantine, directing the Russian Supreme Gatekeeper, drove forward this last unified save in a frantic bid to recover the Pratzen levels. A legion of the French 4th Line Regiment was pursued by Russian Watchman cavalry, losing its Hawk standard in horrendous battling. Napoleon, who climbed to the levels, sent in his own gatekeeper mounted force. In this troubling scuffle between the first-class horsemen of the 2 armed forces, the French at long last won. Napoleon had broken the unified focus. Presently, to close the snare on the united left wing, actually secured in weighty battling around Austerlitz. Around 2 p.m., Napoleon requested 4 divisions to swing south and cut off their retreat. General Buxhowden, ordering the partnered left, just now saw the peril he was in. Gone after from 3 sides, the main break was south. A considerable lot of his soldiers had to escape across frozen lakes. French gunnery started shooting, attempting to crush the ice with their cannonballs. Around 200 men and many ponies suffocated in the freezing water. However, not the huge number of Napoleon's publicity. The French sovereign had won a splendid triumph. His military had taken in excess of 10,000 detainees and caught 45 adversary norms. Huge number of dead and injured of all sides littered the war zone, many left untended for quite a long time. The fight,